Well, hello gang, welcome back to the channel. I've got a giant 12 volt cooler to show you folks and to test out to see if it works very well. So this is from Bodega. This is their 80 quart 12 volt cooler. And gang, I gotta tell you, sometimes less is more, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit more in detail why I say that. Because I just reviewed about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the Blue Eddy 12 volt cooler. It's got the ice maker on it. There's a lot of stuff going on with that cooler. This cooler, you plug it in and it gets cold. There's no separate compartments. There's no ice making units. It's just a 12 volt cooler. Now I did wrap up another test using this cooler with my 24 volt 100 amp hour battery. And I gotta say this cooler is pretty efficient. It held the temperature right at the set temperature that I put it at, 32 degrees for 6 days. And it was empty inside. There was no food or water to keep that temperature holding. So that it's a little bit tougher on the coolers if they're empty, and this cooler did really well. I'll actually put a link for that video that I did on the battery using this cooler down in the description below if you want to check it out. But 6 days off of a 100 amp hour, 24 volt battery is pretty good. So it's pretty efficient. It held the temperature. That's the most important thing. And the temperature that the app, this does have an app, the temperature that the app was telling me this was at, and the screen that this cooler has on it, was the temperature that my internal thermometer that I put in myself was showing. So it all lined up, which is a very good thing. Now this cooler, it's not small, guys. It is around 31 inches width, about 18 inches deep, and about 18 inches tall. But the cool thing is it only weighs 40 pounds. That is a little bit of weight, but it's pretty light for a cooler. Now that's of course empty, but it's not too hard to move around, okay? So it's doable, and it does have wheels. So we do have wheels on the back side, and it does have a handle up front. This is the worst thing about the cooler, I'll tell you. The handle is a little bit chintzy, okay? It twists, so I don't know how sturdy this is gonna be. You know, sometimes if it does have a little bit of give in it, it actually makes it last a little bit longer because it's not rigid and it's not gonna break as easy. But I will say when I first saw this handle, I was like, really? I don't know about that. But it works just fine, and it does kind of click into place. Like I said, this cooler's got Bluetooth. It's got an LCD screen. It goes from -4 all the way up to 68 degrees. And if any of you can tell me why you would need a cooler that goes to 68 degrees, I'll be happy to listen. But it does go down to -4, so you can use it as a freezer only or as a refrigerator / cooler if you set it to around 32, 36 degrees. Overall, been pretty happy with it. I'm just gonna put it out there. Bodega's got a lot of coolers. I've used a lot of their coolers throughout the years on my main camping channel, and they've all done great. So I'm a pretty big fan of Bodega coolers, but let's take a closer look at the inside so folks can kind of see why I like this cooler so much and why I call it a simple less is more cooler. So coming around to the front of the cooler, of course, you got your wheels in case you didn't see them earlier, but this is gonna be your main control settings, your power on button, your Bluetooth settings, how to turn on the Bluetooth, up and down for the temperature, all right there, and we'll get it plugged in just a second. You do have a little ruler gauge going across the top, one single handle. And this is what I like about this cooler, guys. If you open it up, it is really just one big, vast cooler. You don't have any dividers you have to worry about. It's not a dual zone cooler / refrigerator. I kind of like that it's just one big open cooler. You can throw a whole bunch of stuff in here. It does have this little jut out here. It's about 6 inches tall, 6 inches wide, but of course that's where your compressor sits down there. This is the only section in this cooler that is not completely flat, but you have a ton of room down here to just really pile in groceries. And sometimes I like not having to deal with the dividers or setting different temperature zones. I think sometimes these just work better. You set it to 32 degrees and this whole thing is 32 degrees. You don't have to worry about different zones. So I do like that. You do have a little bit of gasket going around the edges. It's more like a foam than it is rubber. I probably would have preferred more of a rubber type gasket, but this should do the trick. There is no light anywhere in this cooler. I like having lights in coolers, but it's not a make it or break it thing for me. You do have a drain plug down there in the bottom. And that's about it, guys. It's just a big cooler. And it does come with a 12 volt car adapter that you can plug in to run off your car, or the included AC adapter. So let's get this thing plugged in to see how many watts it takes so you can maybe get an idea of what size power station you would need to run this thing over the weekend. Okay, so I got the AC 180T hooked up to the cooler via the AC inverter, the AC brick. So this is running straight off of AC, not DC. gonna get this thing cut on. It helps if you turn the AC inverter on the power station first. It cuts that on, and we're on max setting, okay? And I'm gonna put the temperature down to 32 degrees. And that is pulling 108, 107 watts right when that compressor kicks on. And it's gonna slowly lower, and we'll see where it gets us when it's fairly comfortable and just running normal. But while we're doing this test, I might as well throw this thermometer in here and put a timer. So that's gonna go down there. You can see we're at 71 degrees. I'm gonna get my phone out here and we're gonna start a timer to see how fast we can get from 73 degrees, which is what the cooler's at right now, down to 32 degrees. And it is pulling 83 watts right now, and that's pretty comfortable setting. All right, guys, I'm in here trying to get the Bluetooth set up to my phone, and I heard that compressor kick on again, and we are now at 135 watts. So that compressor does take, I misspoke earlier, so that is a little bit more than the 90 watts I was saying would run comfortably. So yeah, you can tell when this compressor kicks on and tries to get that cooler down to temp. The most I've seen that get now is 134 watts. Now again, it's not gonna run that forever. It's just until it gets down to temperature, but yeah, we're looking at about the max that I've seen, about 135 watts. All right, gang, well, the app is showing me 31 degrees. The cooler is showing 31 degrees. And while I have the app up here, it's a really simple app. You know, you can change the temperature up and down from the home screen. You can go down here to the bottom and hit more features, and you're gonna get your temperature scale. You can either change it to Celsius or Fahrenheit. You can go into mode to put it on max or eco, and you can change your battery protection settings, either high, medium, or low. Typically for power stations, I actually put it on low so it doesn't kick off with low voltage. But just a real simple app. And what I really like about this app is it's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So I was able to monitor this from inside my home a long ways away, a lot further than what the Bluetooth connection range was. So as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you can get a pretty good distance on this app to that cooler. Let's see what this thermometer in here says, because I'm not expecting it to be 31 degrees. My Blue Eddy cooler that's sitting over here was about 12 degrees, 12 to 15 degrees off, but we are sitting at 36 minutes and 30 seconds on this timer. And remember, we started at around 70 degrees. So we're gonna see what the temperature says inside. Hey, look at that, that's much better, 39 degrees. So it's not exactly accurate, but again, I have nothing in this cooler, and it would probably take another good 30 minutes to 45 minutes to actually settle down and get that internal temperature to 32 degrees. But so far, this was a more accurate reading than this much more expensive Blue Eddy sitting down there on the floor. So not too bad. Okay, guys, now I want to show you something. I've got this cooler hooked up via the DC cord going directly into my Blue Eddy, and I've changed the setting on this cooler to the eco mode setting. The last test we were on max setting, which means it's going to cool as fast as possible. But I want to see the difference in wattage running the eco mode and the DC versus the max mode and the AC. So I'm going to get this cooler cut on. We're going to make sure that compressor cuts on, so I will set it to 31 degrees. And we're going to be pulling, there is 75 watts. 76 is the highest I've seen it get. Now remember, when we were running it off of the AC and max setting, it got up to around 130 watts, I believe. So you can tell running it in eco mode and the DC side of the power station, it uses a lot less power. These power stations have to use power from the battery to run that inverter as well, so it is losing efficiency. So if you have to run a cooler like this off a power station, always try to run it off of the DC side, because you're going to get the longest runtime off of your battery running any appliance if you can get it off the DC circuit. It is on eco mode and the battery protection is on low. All right, last little quick test I'm going to run on this cooler. I moved it to the floor because I'm running out of room here. I'm going to set this thing down to 0 degrees because this can function as a freezer. So there you can see we're at 0 degrees. I'm going to put these water bottles in here and see how long it takes for them to freeze. Let's get a time. It is 12:16 p.m., March 5th. All right, guys. Well, truth be told, it's 7:45 p.m. now, and kids' homework got in the way, dinner got in the way, and I actually kind of forgot this was out here in the garage. But I did come out here and just check it. So we do have almost frozen. That's extremely slushy in 3 of the bottles. This bottle down here in the lower left is not frozen yet. So obviously this section of the cooler gets much colder than that bottom left section. So that's pretty interesting. Now let's see, depending on where I get it, that's 16 degrees. Yeah, you can see it's a little warmer down there in the corner. 21 degrees up here on the shelf, 22. Yeah, 10 degrees up there in the corner. So I guess the moral of the story is, yes, this freezer or this cooler will freeze water. And it took around, I'm guessing, between 6 and 7 hours to get that water almost to the freezing point. Now I'm going to check this in the morning. I'm going to let this sit overnight. And so we should have completely 4 frozen solid bottles of water by around 4:35, well, let's say 6 a.m. Tomorrow morning. But I will come back and check on it, let you folks know. All right, good morning, guys. It is 6:15 a.m., March 6th. Checking in on this cooler. Make sure it turned into a freezer. And yep, we are rock solid. All 4 bottles are frozen. So I'd say that worked out pretty well. Let's get a temp check. Yeah, around 15 degrees. So my advice, and I think it's even in the manual, if you're going to use these things as a freezer, let them cool down for around 12 to 20 hours before you put in frozen food, because it will take a little while to get this cooler down to temp to keep foods frozen. But you can see here, if you're going to use this thing as a freezer, it definitely will work. You just need to pre-chill it. One thing I don't think I showed you folks is the actual interior dimensions of this cooler. So on the main part down here, we're looking at around 18¼ inches left to right, roughly 14 inches front to back, and then the depth is 14 inches. Now, if you go from all the way to the side up to the top of this little shelf where that compressor is under, you're right at 26, almost 27 inches. So again, the space that you have to put in this cooler, I really appreciate the fact that there's not a lot going on in here. I know that sounds weird, but you can just throw a ton of stuff in this cooler, and that's what I like about it. It's just kind of bare bones. It keeps things cold, and there's a lot of room in there. Well, that's kind of the quick and the dirty on this giant Bodega cooler. Again, it's around 80 quarts, and I really do like this cooler. I like the fact that it's simple. I like the fact that it can be used as a freezer if you want it. It is light. It is much lighter than my other Bodega coolers. They consider this an upgraded model because of the weight reduction. And I contacted Bodega because I kind of told them about this handle. It's a little flimsy. Well, the previous model that I have, it's a big kind of integrated handle that fits along the side, and you can pull it out, and it's got a lot of rubber on it, some foam for padding, but it adds weight. So they claim that they changed to this style handle to reduce weight. And I will say, guys, it is much, much lighter than my other Bodega coolers. It still performed just as well, and the fact that you get an app is kind of a little bonus. But again, no ice maker, which is totally fine. It's not dual zone, which for me is totally fine. I have never used a dual zone cooler dual zone. I always take that divider out and I just use the cooler as a single zone. I set the temp to what I want it as, and I go on from there. I've never used, you guys might have used a dual zone. I think it's a hassle, and I don't think it really works that well in most coolers, to be honest. So I like that it's simple. I like that it's big. I like that it's light, and it just works. So there you go. I will leave a link, an Amazon link for this cooler in the description below. You can check it out. Again, I don't get any kind of money from Bodega if you go buy it. So I am not an affiliate of Bodega. They just send me these coolers to review to kind of show you folks what they're all about. But I don't get any kind of kickback from this company if you do decide to purchase it yourself. But I can say it worked really well, and I do like it. I like the simplicity of it, and I just kind of dig this little big cooler. So anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you on the next review. See ya.